We moved down to the southwest from Perth back in 2007. That was not long after our second daughter was born. After bouncing around a bit for about 6 years, we eventually settled in Margaret River. That was just after our son was born, that's fourth baby. And we lived in a rental home in a lovely little cul-de-sac for pretty much exactly 9 years. But then in mid-2022, we were given 6 months' notice by the landlord to find somewhere else because he wanted to bring his young family down from the city. So we looked for that whole 6 months and we couldn't find anything, at least not around town or on the outskirts of town. Finally, at the very last possible minute, we had our miracle and our application was accepted for a house on a rural property, which was perfect because it could accommodate our pets as well. I actually couldn't believe it at first and I just felt so blessed to have found something that was comfortable as well as affordable. There was just one catch. If we want to get to town, Margaret River is almost an hour's drive in that direction and Busselton is almost an hour's drive in that direction, and even Nannup is 15 minutes away. So since we moved out here, I have done a lot of driving. I will clock on average about 1,200 kilometres a week, just getting the kids to school and to work and various other activities. And my husband, who's based in Bunbury for work, does even more than that. So simply for logistical reasons and because some family members have really struggled with the social isolation of being so far from everyone we know, we've been looking for a rental closer to town for the whole 2.5 years since we moved out. But it just seems to be getting worse in terms of what's actually available and how much landlords are asking from tenants. I mean, I think we're pretty lucky. We have a good house to live in and financially we get by okay. My husband has a pretty decent job. But lately I've really just been thinking what is happening to everyone else out there in the community who is on a lower income and can't find a rental. What are these people even doing and where are they going? I thought I'd do a bit of research to try and get my own head around what contributing factors there are in this rental crisis, and it turns out population increase is definitely one of them. Last year, the number of residents in Margaret River alone went up by more than 4% from the previous year, and that's compared to the growth rate for the whole of the southwest, which is around 1.5%. I also went onto the website of Just Home, which is a grassroots organisation in Margaret River committed to tackling homelessness in the region, and I looked at their last annual report, which was published in 2023, and it said that WA is now the state with the highest proportion of rough sleepers, with the southwest being the second region most impacted by this issue after the Kimberley. And they cited factors such as rising interest rates and rental costs, low vacancy rates, growing population, lack of social supports, unregulated short-stay accommodation industry, and insufficient investment into social and affordable housing. I put a post up on the Facebook community notice board just asking if anybody felt comfortable to share their stories if they were in a difficult situation with their housing at the moment, and I heard back from quite a few people. For example, this young mother with little kids whose family is currently living just outside of Margaret River. She said, "My baby has health issues and requires ongoing medical treatment in hospital. Right now we are facing potential homelessness for the third time in 6 years as our landlord is returning from overseas in 3 months' time, and we need to find somewhere else to move to. We have really wonderful references and are great tenants, but that's not enough to be able to secure a roof over our families' heads anymore, as we simply can't afford what most people are asking for rent. I'm worried about what the future holds for us." Or this story, "At present, I live with my partner in a shed that is not our own. I'm a small business owner and my children have not been able to live with me for over 3 years because I cannot earn enough to secure a rental, let alone support myself and 2 dependents. My capacity to earn has also been affected by our unstable accommodation because I'm unable to make any long-term plans with confidence. My kids are also now working to help their father, who is a high-income earner, to pay ridiculous rent. He, at least, is earning enough to qualify for a rental. The impact on them has been profound, with something like 6 moves in 4 years. No stability. At one period, both myself and my ex-husband were fully homeless and looking to friends and family that might be able to take the kids so they were in a home of some description. Never ever did I anticipate I could be in such a desperate and devastating situation. The social, mental and emotional impact has been massive. My sense of self-worth has really suffered, and added to that, the financial and practical impact right on the back of the COVID drama and divorce. Right now, I am trying to problem solve storage of my belongings, as I have to move them from where they were stored, but I have nowhere to take them. The stress of it all has been so intense, I honestly don't know how I am still here. Okay, so I'm here outside the Heart in Margaret River, where as a result of my Facebook post, I heard that Just Home happened to be having an event tonight celebrating 10 years of their community service and activism, trying to help the homelessness crisis in this region. So hopefully tonight I'll get to hear a little bit about their plans and about some stories about people who have been helped by this organisation.
Just Home's position has always been that everyone has a right to a home. This is a universal human right. Regardless of their situation, regardless of their background, regardless of who they are, every person has the right to a home. Our housing system is broken and it must be changed, and all of us coming together have to be part of that process. This requires us to be advocating at all levels, in our communities, through state government and to federal government. And this community really, I think, holds this issue from a place of love and care and a commitment to social change. Now, rental prices, as we know, really have shot up through and following on from COVID. Demand for housing has increased and the supply is still really low. When that crisis was just about to happen, the lockdowns are about a few days away, Just Home met and we saw what were the issues that we would be seeing in the community. We wrote a letter that the community centre supported, and we advocated to the Shire to get on board and to really take this issue seriously. And the Shire committed a $2 million COVID care package, the first local government in WA to do that. And in fact, to this day, as far as I know, the greatest amount of money that was committed by a local government for COVID. For the first time in our experience, we were able to put people actually into housing. So we were in lockdown here in Margaret River, and the hotels had no clients. So we formed partnerships with the local hotels, and we were able to put people into housing over that lockdown period. Many people for the first time are in stable housing. It was the greatest experiment you couldn't have planned. It was an incredible moment for us really to see what it looks like to have affordable housing available with support structures around that for people to be in accommodation. Real insight that it is possible to support people into housing, and with the right supports and structures and affordability around that, we can end homelessness.
It all started in about 1788, thereabouts, and there was some homeless people who got off the boat and made a whole lot of other people homeless, and you're still living through that. There's a lot of pain people have of homelessness and separation in a lot of parts of the world, and in England, homelessness, you could say, started in the 13th century when they started pushing people off the land and pushing them into towns and cities and closing off that land and stopping them from being able to practice their culture and be where they know and where the stories are, where their language is. You know, that happened in England too. And a lot of people have got pain in their ancestry that maybe they don't know about or they don't acknowledge. And maybe knowing all our own history is what a good place for us all to start thinking about how to fix this. People who have called this place home their whole life should have a right to remain here and call it home without having to, be homeless.
It's so challenging when you're in it to talk about your housing and your issues. When you're struggling to just do the basics, keeping my family dry, it was the wettest March ever, which I'm usually so grateful for rain, but that year I had mould growing in my canvas tent with my baby and I was sleeping there. It was horrible. They got sick And I was like, what am I doing now? I can't keep them warm, I can't keep them dry. I was seeing more and more people dealing with this too, other families, and it felt like, well, just move, go somewhere else. That seems to be the like, oh well, shame for you, you might have to move. Not acknowledging our sense of belonging to this community. It was just like, oh, well, too bad, you've hit, like, you're unlucky, just go move somewhere else. And I think that's the biggest thing is allowing people to know that they belong in this community when they are going through this. I would like to still see now, when we have people that don't have anywhere to go, where is the emergency setup? You want warmth, shelter, somewhere to be able to cook and store your food. Just real basics are so important. And also probably mental health stuff, having counsellors, having people, because it was so challenging, it was really grueling.
I've had a lot of experience being homeless in Melbourne and in this region as well, and Perth, and you know, in that space I've felt a lot of disconnection and fear about like just not being a part of a community and not being plugged in.
What impact does it have when a community doesn't have enough services and social housing?
When there's a lack of social services, let's say in a community, it affects everybody in the community. But it affects people that are vulnerable disproportionately. If getting to the right service at the right time is impossible because of barriers, whether it's transport or the gaps in fees that a lot of places do charge, it makes it impossible. There's services here, but being able to access them isn't equal, and it's not free. When it comes to, I guess, social housing, or a community that might lack social housing, that affects everything as well. Well, it impacts obviously economically how much people end up spending on their rents and on mortgages. It affects their development, you know, it affects long-term outcomes. People that are experiencing housing stress or can't get affordable housing, you know, they have to face choices around leaving this community, leaving their supports and connections and contacts, which is a horrific choice to make. I think that, you know, Just Home has been an amazing support, again, in just having a presence here, being able to listen and tell stories and point people towards services, because even when there are services, people don't know about them. They don't know how to access them. They don't even know they exist. The more that we have, I guess, people that are aware of services and how to access them, that makes everything a lot better too.
We got together with Mom and a bunch of other people, and we created a vision amongst ourselves in the face of such a crisis. I just have this passion to just get this vision of a well-designed community where all of our needs are taken care of.
Just Home did help me. I have lived in insecure housing all my life. In my latter years, I'm sort of like, oh God, I'm getting tired of this. I'm 63 years old. I'm getting tired of moving. Just Home got me into the state government housing list, and I think I just hit the jackpot. Anyway, I got a beautiful place. I'm so happy. I feel like I've died and gone to heaven. And what it's allowed me to do in my life is to afford my life for a start. It's much, much more expensive to be without secure housing, like you're saying, Angela. When you're behind the 8 ball, you get further and further behind the 8 ball. I've got my veggie garden, I've got more energy, I can give back to my community, I can do things like this, volunteer work and stuff, and I'm freed up to do that now. I've got the energy and the wherewithal and even just the headspace to do that. So, thank you.
So we have 20 new social housing dwellings currently under construction in Augusta Margaret. This is off a baseline of 120 that hasn't increased for about 20 years. So this is a huge, huge gain for us. Now, our goal is 200. That's a tiny percentage there, but you know, we know that this is the long game. Every 6 weeks, this group gathers, and it's local and state government, people with lived experience, Just Home, and community housing providers. And we are meeting, planning to bring about more social housing in our town.
What exactly is advocacy?
Speaking up when you have a voice, or speaking up on behalf of those people that don't have one. There's many people that feel stigma, feel the kind of negativity from people that are just not able to speak and share their voice because the system has broke them so many times. Like getting people to change the policies that exist in a community level or in a state level, it can also mean that, it's system-wide change. Like actually, how do you change the system so it works for the people that are the recipients of the system? Advocacy can be one person doing that, can be a group of collective people that have a shared vision, a shared passion, a shared goal, and really kind of like bringing people's focus to that and getting them to change their minds or think differently about those things. That's ultimately like what we're trying to do with stories, and that could be stories from people that have experienced it. It can be a collection of stories that are put into data, that you can use that data. It needs to be evidence-based. So, quite often people will talk about anecdotal stories that they've heard. Like, actually, if you've got evidence because you've collected those stories or you've collected that data, it's so much more powerful to be able to make long-lasting change.
We need to leverage community support. Like, ending homelessness is not something that one organisation or one person can do. It takes a community. One organisation might have support, one organisation might have the housing, one organisation might have some financial support that they can provide to people, but without us all coming together and contributing our resources, we can't make that happen and we can't sustain it for people that might need ongoing support. We would love to be able to use the data that we've collected and also enhance that data to be able to make sure that people in our community are known by name. We know what their needs are, and we can use that information to really kind of ignite people coming together and doing some really shared advocacy. Because at the moment, people advocate for their own organisation or they advocate for one part of the community, and we don't often see the big picture. So it's really important that we create that. So Connections Week really is a grassroots kind of campaign almost. It's about all of community coming together and volunteering to make sure that we're able to collect information about people's stories, their experience in homelessness in our community. What we need to do is really listen to the people that are experiencing homelessness, collect their information, and then do that collective advocacy. So looking at bringing volunteers, services, community together, and really doing that collaboratively. What do we need for this community collectively, and what can we do to be able to enhance that? It's also about driving action, so it's about giving us the data and the information to be able to say, we need this amount of housing, and we need 2 bedrooms, we need 3 bedrooms, we need 1 bedrooms. We also need this support. Like, we've not got any homeless services that are funded, that operate really in this region. We have Cord West that come down a couple of days a week and they connect with people, but we haven't got people that are based here. There is no in-town service around homelessness. We do have a little bit of mental health support, but we probably need more of that. So without the information, we can't do that collective advocacy because we don't know what the numbers are saying, we don't know what people's stories are. So at the end of Connections Week, we gather all of the information, people's stories with their consent, and we produce a report and say, this is what we need for this community, and that enables us to be able to go out, whether it's for your service, whether it's for the Shire, whether it's to do lobbying against state government. It gives us the information to be able to say, we know hand on heart what is happening in our community and this is what we need.
Talking to the government about what we need, it's vital that we have that data that they recognise as being valid. And Connections Week is that, and it's a solution to that.
If you don't feel that you can do that and you want to volunteer to do a barbecue breakfast and just stand and give food to people, we want to hear from you as well. If you don't want to do that, you want to donate some food for the day or for the week, then we would love to hear from you then. We also need people that are going to be the health professionals that actually, if we connect with somebody on the day and they raise that actually they've got a health concern or they've got a wound or they need specific care on the day, that we can get the services to the people that need them in the quickest time possible. And you think that you have something to offer, I would love to hear from you, and you bring a lot of energy, and we need to work together to be able to end homelessness within Margaret River.
If we thought something was going wrong and something wasn't quite right, there was always someone who was worse off than us, and we should remember that, and that we should do everything in our power to actually support those people, to look for who they were and to do something about it.
I'm on my way home from the Just Home event at the Heart, and it's really late and I'm tired and I've got this big drive home ahead of me in the dark with the ruse, but I am just so glad that I went to that meeting. That was one of the best community meetings I have ever attended in my life, and I've come away feeling so hopeful that there is concrete actions being taken and concrete actions that I can participate in that can actually make a difference in the long term, solving this homelessness crisis that is, you know, only going to get worse if we don't collectively take action. So I guess my biggest takeaways from going on this little journey, and I hope you will gain something too, are that firstly, don't judge. If you see someone that's struggling, do what you can to help. But if you can't help, at least send them some love. You never know, it could be you in a hard situation down the track. Second, it's up to each one of us to do something. It's really easy to just sit back and blame the government or the globalists for ruining the economy and making life hard. But we need to stop just being victims to the system and do everything we can, working together to change the system and create new systems that serve everyone, not just those that are financially well off. Step up, volunteer, be the change that you want to see in the world. Thirdly, change is possible. And I think Just Home have proved that through their stories of success. It takes a lot of hard work and commitment, but if you create the vision and keep moving forward, dreams can be realised. Finally, if you need help, speak up. It's okay to have needs. Just because you're finding life hard at the moment does not mean you are somehow less of a person for not being on top of your situation. As human beings, we are social creatures and we are made to help one another, not live and work in isolation. So let's build connections and create support until one day we achieve that age-old dream of living together as one.